Hey guys, this week we are in a Volvo XC90, and this is the new 2017 with autopilot and some newer updated luxury features throughout the cabin, like massaging seats and, headliner and stuff like that. Mostly right now I'm testing out, right now the car is in pilot assist mode, where basically it just attempts to drive itself. And as you can see, it's a little bit wonky, unless if you have clearly defined lines on both sides of the road. It has a little bit of trouble and kind of steers you like you're drunk. You can easily switch between pilot assist and dynamic cruise control with the buttons on the left of the steering wheel here. You just hit right and it goes into pilot assist, and you hit left and it goes into adaptive cruise control, and then hit the cruise control button to turn that whole system on or off. Overall I think this is a useful feature for a car like this, especially a vehicle where most of the controls are in a screen and within at least one or two taps of a menu. So let's see how we do here on a straight road with clearly defined lines. Alright. It seems to do pretty well in situations like this and on the highway. It doesn't take turns fully, so you'll need to put a little bit of steering input to take a turn, and then every 15 seconds or so, or 10 seconds or so, it'll tell you to apply steering. So I think, this feature isn't meant to be autopilot, and it definitely doesn't work as well as some of the other systems, for example, like the Tesla. But for something that you're just going to be using to, for a few seconds to flip through the menus and select something here, it's not a bad system, and it does work in specific situations. So let's turn everything off and just kind of give some driving impressions, because this XC90 is really quite good to drive. Right now we're just in comfort mode, basically normal driving mode, what you would use every day. And this is the T6. So I believe that's a turbocharged and supercharged 4-cylinder. Makes decent power, response is nice. The transmission seems to shift comfortably and smoothly when you're not hustling it, and then when you do get on it, it seems to shift pretty quickly. No real complaints about the transmission. Sometimes it's a little bit jerky and slow to downshift when you just floor it from a dig. But overall it seems to work pretty well. One of my favorite things about this car is definitely the steering. It's really well weighted. It's super light, just kind of around town, and it weights up nicely around corners. You get good feedback. I'm really quite happy with the way this car steers, and it has a nice high-end feel to it. It's not overly assisted. It's just right. Volvo really nailed that with this car. And of course, given that this is a full-size SUV, you have a really nice high driving position. You can probably see the heads-up display ahead of you that's showing, speed limit, that this is a do not pass area, and then that I'm going 57 miles per hour. So, got a compass in the mirror, really nice sunroof, and then of course there's this center display screen here. We're going to turn autopilot on here so we can kind of pay attention to this. So let's say if we change a drive mode, right, there's eco, comfort, and dynamic. Let's pop it into dynamic here for a second, and we'll turn off autopilot and see how it does around some corners. Immediately, dynamic mode increases the throttle response. The throttle is definitely a lot less linear. If we put the transmission into auto, seems to shift pretty well. you can definitely feel the increased damper rate, and the car seems to corner a little bit flatter and stiffer than in Comfort. Transmission seems to shift a little bit faster in this mode. Overall, though, I don't really prefer it for driving because the throttle does just get so sensitive. It's kind of unnecessary. In Comfort mode, the throttle has a nice linear feel, and honestly, that's what I prefer to drive in. So in this menu, you've got a bunch of different things here. You have everything from your radio to navigation to sound experience to driver performance, and then you can always select certain things like various cameras, lane keep assist. Alright, here's the car slowing itself down for this, and it's not going to see the stop sign. You can also do fold the headrests in the back seat from the screen, and do heads-up display adjustments. Pilot Assist seems to work quite well in situations like this. Straight roads, clearly defined lines. It's not going to avoid stuff on the road or roadkill. But I did hear that Volvo introduced a large animal avoidance system. So if you see any large moose that jump out in front of you, or deer or anything like that, it'll probably avoid it, which is kind of cool. Alright, we're going to take it around some twisties here, get an idea for the handling, and I'll give you some more driver feedback. This XC90 does ride really well too. It's really well composed over the bumps. It strikes a nice balance for an SUV between ride quality and the chassis feels relatively stiff. It's not bouncing all over the place. And the steering is really direct and really tight. And that's kind of one of my favorite things about driving this car, is just how good the steering is. No major float or anything over these bumps and undulations. I mean, it's still a large, heavy SUV. It definitely doesn't hide its weight, but it does a good job performing given its dimensions and size. And man, it has so much road presence. You do feel kind of powerful driving this car down the road. And of course, walking up to it, I think it's beautiful. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous vehicle. We'll step out here. I'll show you, we'll do kind of a little quick walk around of the exterior and interior. Gotta check out these seats. Lots of adjustment on these seats, of course. There's a button down here where you can add massage, you can adjust the side bolsters, adjust the lumbar, and then the cushion extension, which is this piece right here. Alright, so let's take a look here at what we have. pop the glove box by pressing that button there. Beautiful Bowers & Wilkins stereo. And the key fob is actually quite nice too. Feels like it's kind of wrapped in leather. And I would think that these side buttons would get a little bit, take a little bit to get used to. The entire car takes a little bit to getting used to, especially kind of wrapping your head around the controls and the settings and the ergonomics. Especially that center display is a little bit confusing at first, but once you get to know it, it's not that bad. Really gorgeous exterior from this Volvo. Of course, you have a third row. Not sure how you lower these headrests. There we go. And these fold down. A lot of space in here. Of course, you've got a nice panel here to stop things from moving around. Tie your groceries up there. A little bit more storage space down below. I'm not sure if there's anything below this, just the spare tire and whatnot. Oh, and then of course, air suspension tank. You can lower the rear end by pressing this button. That lowers pretty extensively. Makes for some easier cargo access, or at least if you're loading things up into the interior. Cool, guys. Well, that's a little quick walk around around the XC90. I'll show you some interior shots. I gotta get this cleaned up and photographed. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.